So now I'm going to cover there is a one important topic, object repository. Okay, so what is object repository? If I say object repository, and what is object repository? So it's a nothing but nothing. So it's very simple. You can understand it like it's a centralized location, something like that you can assume as of now. So it's a centralized location. Okay, so as you guys are aware of how to store our project source code into GitHub or some other project repository, right? So the same like, and this object repository is the object repository is a centralized database, okay, that store the information about the UI element of an application. Okay, let's say we have a lot of we have an application like we have a web applications and we have a Windows application. So those are the applications, right? So simply understand that object repository is a centralized database that store information about the UI element of an application. That is either web or Windows application. That is the UI applications. Okay, and so what we can capture and what we can store in this object repository. So so very simple. So we done many UI automation using web application and using Windows application. So they we used to capture a lot of UI element. Let's say if I want to open a browser, I used to capture that Windows the browsers. And the same like if I want to capture some Windows applications, and then I want to capture that as well. Let's say the AnyTeller. If I want to capture if I want to automate this particular Windows application, I want to capture this particular text box and this button, something like that. I need to capture every time. Okay, in order to avoid that repetitive capturing the UI element, so we use this object repository, and where we can store it in one common location. So that is a centralized location. So whenever we require the same UI element in our same process or in our another process, and we can utilize that object repository. Okay, so let's say first what is object repository. Object repository, it's very simple. Okay, it's very simple. So this is the centralized database. Okay, centralized database for what? To store UI elements of an application. So if I say application, what application? That is web or Windows application. Okay, so we used to capture UI elements from the web and Windows applications, right? Okay, next, what is why object repository? So why object repository? Why we use object repository? It's very simple. Okay, and to storing and managing UI elements, okay, in our object repository, developers can save time and effort. Okay, and when creating and maintaining automation project, let's say today you are started developing a process using this Windows application, and you started capture this deposit, and you captured Windows, and sometime you captured a split, and you use this text box, and then you clicked somewhere else in this checkbox. Okay, and again the other person they also he or she, okay, he also getting the same he also getting a process to automate with the same applications. Okay, in that time that the person also again if let's say if already one person completed automation using this application, clicking on deposit and clicking on somewhere place and attaching this opening this application, everything, and if the next person come to do automation with the same application, again he or she needs to capture the elements, right? They need to capture this application, they need to go here and click on deposit and withdraw, split deposit, something like that. In order to avoid that repetitive work, repetitive capturing the UI element, we can use this object repository. Okay, so why repository? Storing and managing UI element into object repository. As a developer, we can save time and effort. Okay, that is the one important thing. So developer can save on time. That is the one thing. It will help us to develop our process very easy. Okay, and the other couple of points I can discuss. One is reusability. Okay, one is using object repository. I can say reusability and centralization and consistency and maintenance. Okay, what is this reusability? It's very simple. If you started capturing some UI element, okay, in one process, that the same UI element you can utilize, reuse in another process. Okay, that is reusability. We can avoid duplicate of capturing the same element and again. Okay, that is reusability. Centralization, and whatever the UI element you captured, that will be stored in a centralized location. Okay, that's very easy to maintain and manage. So easy to maintain and manage in the sense, let's say I have stored the entire this entire application UI element into one centralized place. Okay, so if I need let's say I'm going to create a process with the same application, I can reuse that particular UI element. That I will show you in practical. And if I'm going to create a B process, then in that time also I can use that UI element. Okay, that is the reason we are storing into a centralized location. Okay, yeah, this consistency is nothing, so we can reuse that particular UI element again and again without modifying your element. Okay, now let's on the maintenance part. If there is any change on the application, okay, the UI change or some element change, no need to go on to change it in the process. Okay, you can directly go to that object repository and you can modify the selector, then it will be reflected in the all your process. So that's how it will work. Okay, now I'm getting into process. Okay, so go to UiPath Studio. Okay, in order to use object repository, okay, in order to use object repository, what are the settings we need to do in your UiPath Studio? So before that, I will tell you one scenario. So before introducing this object repository, and what happened. So let's say I'm going to create a process with a web application interacting with a web page, and I developed the bot and I deployed the bot into production, and it is working fine, and so almost 6 months it was working fine. Then after some time, from the application side, okay, there is a change on the UI. So if there is any modification on the UI, and that time our developed bot, it won't work, because we captured something and later they done change on the UI element, then our bot it will struggle to identify that particular place. Okay, then in that case, so what we will do, we used to go to that particular place where the bot is failed, and we used to recapture that particular UI element. So that's how we do. And so let's say if it is one activity or two places, that's fine, we can recapture it. Let's say assume that if the entire application, the UI element, if it is got changed, what will happen? So again we need to recapture the entire process activity, right? Whatever the activity involved into the process, we need to recapture it. to avoiding that that particular scenario, we use this particular object repository introduced. Okay, so there was some other logic also. So usually the people, what they will do, they will get the selector and they will store it into Excel workbook. Then whenever we start run and our bot, it will go and pick the selector and it will add it into the selector window as a variable. Okay, that's the work. So if there is any changes on the selector, the people know directly they will go back to the Excel and they will add that new selector into that column, and then it will work. That's how it was. There was another logic built by developers. But now, so in order to avoid those confusion, there is a new option introduced by UiPath, that is object repository. Okay, now I am getting into practical. Okay, so in order to enable that object repository, the first thing is go to settings. Okay, so here you see there is a object repository enforced button, and also use modern new project. So if you enable this use modern for new object, then only you can able to enable this object repository. Okay, now I am not going to enable this use modern for a new project, and before that I will tell you what is the difference between object repository, I mean the modern and object repository. Okay, go back to start and click on new process. So this is for without, okay, the process name, let's say demo. Okay, demo process. This is without object repository and without modern. Activities, and click on create. Okay, so here if you click on open, okay, so here now we are not added that object repository, and we are not enabled that object repository. And if you see here, and you can see that object repository window, and let's say I am going to do a automation with a web application or Windows application. What we do, and usually we use application browser, or I will go with a modern, drag and drop use application or browser. So whenever you drag and drop, it will ask you to indicate the application to automate. Okay, always it will ask you to indicate the application. So even let's say if I am going here, this application, Windows application. Okay, this is AnyTeller. Okay, I am opening this AnyTeller Windows application. So go here and click on indicate, and it's captured. Okay, and now again if I want to click something, and if I drag and drop, if I indicate, let's say I'm going to click on this withdrawal button and click on confirm. Okay, now again it's captured the element that you can see that in the property panel. So all the element captured in the fuzzy selector or the strict selector. Okay, this is the one we used to say selectors, right? So if there is any changes on this particular selector, again what we need to do, we need to indicate on the target screen, and again we need to recapture and we need to confirm. So in order to run our process smooth. Okay, this is the one kind of, this is the usual thing. So let's say in future also I am going to automate a lot of process with the same application. I am going to use this particular element repetitively. In that case, what I do, so very simple. Okay, so when in this in the current state, and if you drag and drop an activity, it's asking you to indicate the screen. Okay, now go back to home and enable the settings object repository. In order to use object repository, and we need to enable the modern design for new process. and this modern design is available only the studio version 20.10, above 20.10. okay, so we are using 23.2.0, so this is the latest one. We can enable it. Make sure that if you want to use modern object repository, sorry, modern and object repository, and our studio version should be greater than 20.10. okay, go to settings, go to design tab, and enable modern first, and enable object repository enforced, and click reload. okay, so I done that. Now go and click on start and create a new process, and so here I'm going to add a process name, that is object repository, and here you can tell that object repository demo. okay, and here you see the compatibility of Windows, and then cross platform, and Windows legacy. What is this compatibility? So let's say I'm going to develop a process, okay, and that particular process, if I want to execute in a Windows, okay, Windows operating system, then I can choose this Windows, because most of the time, and we use the latest version of Windows, then you can choose this Windows. So what is cross platform? So let's say I'm going to develop a bot, okay, the process, and which I'm going to execute in a different OS platform, okay. Now let's say non-operating non-Windows operating system, like Mac OS or Linux. So then in that case you can choose you can choose cross platform. If you use cross platform and you won't get object repository, okay, this object repository not enabled for this cross platform, it is enabled for Windows, okay. And here if you choose Windows legacy, what is this Windows legacy? So let's say you are going to develop a process, but that that will run on the lower version of Windows operating system, like Windows 7 and or Windows Server 2018, or some lower version of Windows operating system. You can choose this, so you can take a decision. So where you are going to, which operating system you are going to deploy your process, whether it is a lower version of OS operating system, or it is a cross platform like Mac OS, or Mac or Linux, or if it is a latest one of Windows. Default it will be a Windows, because most of them we will use Windows 10, 11 or something like that only, right? And then you can click on that. Make sure that in the cross platform the object repository it's not enabled, okay. And now click on create, and click on open main workflow. Let's say I'm going to create a process, okay, which is interacting this particular application, this any teller applications, okay. So I'm going to create a new process, any teller, so I can tell that deposit something, okay, any teller deposit, enter. So here, so first thing is I want to open that application, right? Then what you will do, you will go here and type UI automation, and you will go to the browser, the application, drag and drop this use application browser. So here you will see the difference. So before enforcing these settings, okay, enforcing that object repository, there was a field indicate on the screen. Now there is a field add to object repository or drag a screen from an object repository, okay. So which means if you are added already your UI element into object repository, you can reuse, okay. If it is the first time you are if you are going to add your UI element into object repository, you can click on this add to object repository. Let's say, so here this is my application I'm going to automate, and click on add to object repository, and so this is the window. I'm going to add it as an application. Okay, click on it, and once you click, okay, and it will tell you that screen name, and you can add that description also. So here I'm going to add a description, any teller banking application something, and before that, and here you can click on quick add. To add a screen, you need to create a first application. This is the first application we are going to create. Then click on quick add, and here you can add a any teller. Okay, the application name any teller, and the description also you can add any teller banking application. Okay, click on create. Now your application element is stored into this object repository. Click on finish. Okay, now you see in the right side on the object repository panel, you see there is a application any teller. There is a window any teller. Okay, now inside, so let's say I'm going to click withdrawal. So this is for deposit, right? Okay, a deposit. So let's say I want to click this deposit and go to this browser, application, drag and drop click, and you can indicate on this window deposit. Okay, and click on confirm, and you see the moment you click on confirm, it's asking you to add your this is the new element you highlighted, and please add this element into object repository. Okay, and here it says click deposit. If you want to add some name, the element name, you can add it. So this is the meaningful name. I can leave it as it is, click deposit, and the radio button, and so this I can add it clicking on deposit. Okay, then finish. So the moment you click on finish, you will get this click deposit option, and again I'm going to do couple of option. Okay, I'm going to type into something. Okay, type into something, and here click on this cash in. Okay, this is for cash in. Click on confirm, and this type into cash in. So I'm going to click on finish. There is a type into activity, it's added into object, the element is added into object repository, and drag and drop one more type into, and now click on this not on or some other place, this. Okay, this type into, right? Okay, I'm going to use the same. Okay, then click on confirm, and then click on finish. So there is a one more type into added, and I'm going to add a click activity. Okay, click application click, and so click on cancel button. Okay, click on cancel and confirm that. Okay, so this is how you can add lot of element into object repository. Here we added a lot of element, okay, into the object repository. And now let's say this is the first time I added, so I'm going to create a new sequence that is for same process, but selecting some other different option. Okay, maybe withdrawal or something, but I'm going to use the same cash in or something like that. Assume that, so you get a chance for you are getting a new process that is also similar to like adding, clicking on deposit, and entering some amount. And this time in your current process, the previous process you captured this one and this one, and now in the new process you want to add something on the not on us check also. Okay, so let's say the new process any teller deposit any teller deposit process something. Okay, so here again I want to capture that application. Okay, again I want to click on the deposit button. Then after I want to enter something here. I want to enter something here, honest search it, but the only difference is this new field. Okay, so now if I go here, drag and drop use application browser. Okay, and if you click on add object repository, okay, if you select it, and it will tell you, hey, we found a matching screen on your object repository named from any teller application 1.0.1. would you like to reuse it? So which means, hey, already you captured that element and you stored into object repository, why can't you reuse it instead of capturing that? Okay, so if I click reuse, and it will be automatically captured. Okay, that will tell you, okay, that will give you the hint to hey, it's already available here in the object repository. Or else, if you are aware of, if it is already available, you can click on the add object repository. Okay, and go to this object repository, and you can use this. Let's say I'm going to delete this. Okay, and just click here and drag and drop. That's it. Okay, the from any teller, so already added the application into object repository, I use directly. Okay, so let's say the click. Okay, so if at the moment same process I want to do it here also, right? I want to click on deposit, no need to drag and drop, click again, and no need to click, drag and drop, no need to indicate and again. Very simple, because I want to repeat the same process, so I can drag and drop this. The moment you drag and drop here, okay, you will get this activity window. Then that is the click activity, right? Then select the first one, it will be automatically added here because already we captured that element. So then cache in, cache on us, the same drag and drop here, and the moment you drag and drop, it will give you the activities, and you need to tell which activity type into, and it's added here. Okay, and also drag and drop here, and again type into, just select this type into, it's added here. Now in this process there is a different case, because in this process we want to capture this one, and if you drag and drop type into again, and if you capture this particular box, see, click on confirm, and it's asking you to add the UI element into object repository. Okay, so if it is already available, it will tell you that, hey, there is a type into for a not honest check, can you reuse, something like that. The message it will give us. So in this case, so this particular option we are not added into object repository, so this is the first time I am going to adding into object. Click on finish. Okay, so this is how we can reuse. Okay, we can reuse our object repository. We can reuse our UI element from object repository. Let's say you are going to deal with the same application, but you are you will get lot of process in the future also. You will get withdrawal process and some other process. Each process, whenever you do the process within this application, you try to add all the UI element into object repository, and whenever you get a new process, you can easily reuse that particular activities. Okay, and other important thing is, if you add it into object repository, let's say after a couple of months, so there is a change on the click deposit. Okay, so you can directly edit your element. You can click on that particular element, and you can edit it. Okay, again you can recapture it. So then it will be very easy. So once you recapture it, and wherever in your process, okay, so let's say here in this workflow you have used the same type into, the same click deposit, and here also you used click deposit. and that will be reflected in all the place. Okay, no need to go here re-indicate, no need to go here re-indicate. Okay, so once you added here, whatever the modification is, then if you added that new element, then that will be reflected in your the entire process. Okay, so this is all about object repository.